Thanks, Kyle. Thank you so much. Right. So I was told that, and this doesn't work. If this doesn't work, it's not because of anything. But if you blow into anything, people will be convinced that there's coffee in there. So I don't know whether this convinces people of coffee, but fortunately, it's white alcohol. I'm kidding, guys. It's just water. Before I get nailed for this. Right. Let's do this. I didn't need to mute myself for a sec. Oh no, that's way too late for the early boy. That happened at 7 o'clock this morning. I so wish that were true. Right, evening everyone. Now that my face has been there, I don't know why, but it's there anyway. Yeah, my prescription is take 6 months off. That was my prescription. Unfortunately, that's not going to happen. Guys, let's have a look at where we are. I feel that we're starting at data analysis today. There will be workshops on this. I believe I will not be involved in those. So closer to the time when we do the actual analyses, I've been told to keep my focus on the theory for this, and I'm going to try and do that. It's not in my nature to just be so narrowly focused, but let's see how it goes. So let's start with quantitative data analysis. I think at this point we know that we have to do a statistical analysis. The focus is about objectivity and from the numbers essentially drawing objective conclusions. The reality is we start off with our raw data. For us, our raw data, another term for it is, but I don't think they're going to worry too much about this. It's your first order data. So that's the stuff from the actual empirical research, in case people throw other terms around. So you start off, our first order data will definitely be in the forms of numbers that would come from a Likert scale. And on the basis of that, if you've done it properly in Google Forms or in Google or in Microsoft Forms, it should be absolutely fine. Also, Google Forms. As I said previously, just remember in terms of the Likert scale, Google is defaulted to go 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. In order to do a correlation, the numbers have to be 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and you need to swap that around. I know that somebody in the group will figure it out and share it on the group. Please don't ask me how to do that. Right, so let's look at the different stats that we expect. We expect that you will at least do descriptive stats. I want you to go beyond descriptive stats. And again, this is me just telling what I would say to my students. I want us to go to correlation, but I'm not going to contradict what anyone else says. So as a group, my students, we will go to beyond descriptive stats and include correlation. I believe correlation is part of descriptive stats, but depending on the textbook that you look in, they'll also say that it's inferential. So, in terms of the different descriptive stats that we have, the first one is just for you to calculate your mean. I think everyone now by this stage knows what the mean is. It is adding all the numbers together and then dividing it by the number of those numbers, the number of observations. Medium, yeah, here we find the middle value of the data once we've organized the data. And then the mode is the one that occurs most frequently. So the reality is ultimately we will get towards our central tendency to give us a sense of where most of our respondents had answered their questions. So I would love to tell you that I did this, but this is ChatGPT, guys. This is ChatGPT. I gave the instruction, and this is what I was doing from about 4:30. It is exceptional. I am on the paid version of ChatGPT, and I was aware that Chat had improved in terms of these kinds of graphics. But this is exceptional, guys. It takes about 1.5 minutes to produce this. imagine trying to do this manually. I absolutely love AI. I 100% love AI, except when I have to mark bloody AI assignments. So, in terms of the mean, I mean, any comments on that, guys? I hereby declare that I did not create that. Oh, very cool, Fanaz. Very, very cool. I'll do the declaration next week. So, in terms of the mean, very, very simple, guys. It's kept it very, very simple for us in terms of the explanation. I mean, there are no issues. And then showing us the middle value, which will always be your median, and that's why yeah, will always be your medium. And then you can see the mode. The 3 is the most recurring number. So essentially it starts suggesting where people have essentially given us their answers, where their focus in terms of our Likert scale has been. I just thought this was magnificent. It makes me look good, actually. So the reality is, when we have a closely knit group of results, it means that you have a low standard deviation. So the reality is that you have values similar to each other, and then obviously the one that is a little bit more difficult to assess what you've really got is your high standard deviation, and that's why we generally will go through to using our mean. So the reality is, so the values vary greatly. What could cause that is that your questionnaire wasn't pilot tested, and that you had confusing questions, or that your audience is so vastly different in terms of their points of view on your research topic. You would hope for this, guys, so that you can build a stronger argument. This argument would be very different, very new topic, lots of research still that has to be done. The reality of an unfolding new technology having to be established properly before this will actually take place. So the important thing is you need to interpret what is there and give us your interpretation of that. So here it's easy. I mean, people agree. Here, I think you adopt a very different approach in your interpretation. So you can have a look at these guys. I mean, there's nothing dramatic. But again, to just say, ChatGPT, about a minute and a half to create. And I think the reality with this is, and I was about to go away from ChatGPT and move to Claude, but this now will keep me with ChatGPT forever. It is just astonishing what AI can do. I should have not told you guys that and just claimed that I did this today. It took me forever in Canva. To also just say, it shows you in terms of your presentations what potentially can be done, guys, because my presentations don't look like this. I think my presentations are tedious and boring as hell, but I don't have presentations to impress. I have it for the content. So the next one is correlation. So you'll remember when we set up your titles right at the beginning, we constantly looked when you were going to do quantitative research for two variables, your independent and your dependent variable. So the one thing that my students who are doing quantitative research are doing is that they will find existing scales based on their two theories that form part of their title and the golden thread important there. And then once they've taken those scales and shared it, and when I say scales, those are those Likert scales where it is never, almost never, most of the time, etc., and will share that with their prospective respondents. So the key thing is that your relationships will vary depending on how the responses arrive, and you will range it from -1 to +1. I will share another slide which gives a wonderful indication, and if you have got Bradley Smith's final document, go in there because he found a really nice depiction of the different correlation options that gave sub options to. So when there are slight differences, it allows you to discuss it from a slightly different angle. Lizma, you unmuted. Right, and then if there's no relationship, you will have a zero correlation. So let's see whether you guys can help me with this. So please don't panic over the formula, etc. I will give you a very brief video that will sort this out for you. We're not going to get bogged down in, oh my goodness me, Pelser. We're not going to get bogged down in trying to do that. We'll give you a bit of software. You can watch the video, you'll do it in Excel, and that will be perfect. So in terms of negative correlation, give me examples of the kinds of things, the kinds of variables that would give us negative correlation. Kinds of things that will give us negative correlation.
Temperature.
Take that further.
I'm not sure. I just thought temperature can reach negative numbers.
Yeah. Oh, geez, that was an awful laugh. That was a witch's laugh. Anyone else? So remember, your dependent variable is that side. Your independent variable is that side. On, guys. So the higher the dependent, the higher the independent variable, the higher the dependent variable. Come on, guys, give me one, please. So the higher the temperature, the more clothes you'll wear. To steal, I don't know, Tando, was that you that said the temperature one? Okay. So generally, yeah. It's a strange one. Why can't I figure this one out? I'm stumped, and I'm never stumped, guys, because I should have thought of examples. Oh my word. Height and weight of a person. Yeah, higher the weight. What am I saying, guys? I'm losing my mind here today. As X increases, so the independent variable, as X increases, Y decreases, but that's not showing that. That's not showing it in the correct way. Yeah, the faster you know that. Oh, yes, the faster you drive, the less time you would use. That's a very good one. Thank you, Elizma. My brain is really, really not here. Yeah, exercise and weight loss. Wonderful example, Mohammed. Wonderful example. Yeah, no correlation indicates no relationship. That's when you have a mess of a scatter diagram. Guys, in terms of X increasing, Y increases. Give me an example of that. So as we earn more, we spend more.
Supply and demand.
Supply and demand, yeah, it would be one of those as well. My brain is foggy. Sorry, guys. I should know this stuff. So, yeah, the more we earn, the more we spend. And then, yeah, positive, perfect positive correlation where the relationship is perfect between those. I mean, if that happens, yeah, it's unlikely that you'll find that in research, but it is potentially there. Here, the more I drink, the worse I drive, I suppose. The XY one there. Don't know what I'm doing, guys. Sorry, I'm useless today. The more I drink, the worse I drive. So as I drink more, I drive worse. Sorry, I should know this stuff. Yeah, absolutely. Nice positive correlation. Really nice one as well. Okay. I was so impressed by these that I should have thought about examples, but will forgive me today because I am bloody tired. So, guys, in terms of qualitative data analysis, we'll talk about the discussion and interpretation in the next lecture. So, when we look at qualitative data analysis, it is vastly different, and the reality is we account for our subjectivity. I've spoken to Kyle quite a lot about it. You know, Kyle is directly involved in the research topic from a job perspective. So we generally, thanks, Sandra, we generally have to then account for our own bias. And remember, it's a reflexive exercise, and you use people to soundboard that. The key thing is about creating meaning, and that's why you have to account for your own bias. Key in terms of this, we move from the specific behaviors, the specific things that we are researching as generally specific incident specific behaviors, and we move to the general. The general will always be some sort of theory. Now, at this level, we're not building theory, but the reality is that you will, when you get to masters, and in particular, to put the P into the philosophy side into your PhD, you have to create a new model or to create new theory. So this is very tough because the reality is, in terms of quantitative research, these kinds of summaries, the kind of statistical summaries are given to you. Is if you've set up your Google Forms or your Microsoft Forms, right? And if you're going to use SurveyMonkey as well, I don't know if you need to pay for SurveyMonkey. All of those analyses are done, but you'd obviously have to do your own analysis in terms of the correlation. So what we need to think, if you look to the left-hand side, so we're going to code going in that direction. I generally code in the opposite direction, but it doesn't matter. So if we go from there to there, so here is a line from an interview. So a line from a transcription. I find online classes this. So out of that, I mean, there are lots of open codes. Those are the sort of concepts and the ways we see ourselves summarize essentially the a mountain of words there into single concepts, into a concept that would describe parts of that particular transcript. Now remember, you won't just have one, but there you'll have an entire 40 minutes of transcript. So these essentially allow you to, and I'll spend a lot of time explaining, guys, how to do this. Again, we'll sort something out because, again, the steps over the line in terms of me being involved in the application side of things. So the general rule of thumb, you start with your open codes. Okay, so you create and label essentially your ideas, those summaries of ideas, create a concept to describe elements of what is in that particular transcript. You will see from there many open codes. Okay, so your initial concepts will summarize. So you can see that AI, the AI has put that there for me. Will summarize into fewer categories. So that is axial coding, where you take your initial codes and you summarize them into categories. Those categories are then taken and further summarized into your theme. So the one thing we know, and I'm a firm believer, now I know that, for example, Paula will tell you to use software to do this, and I'm bloody sure with the way that AI is evolving that ChatGPT will do this for you. I'm a firm believer, because of the personal nature of this kind of research, that you do this coding yourself. But if you give it to ChatGPT to do, I suppose you take away some of the bias. Um, I'm not going to tell you how to do it. You just need to show how you've done it. But I'm damn sure Chat will do this for us. So you'll see that many codes, and obviously a lot more information from your transcripts, will summarize into fewer categories, which will, the fewer categories will summarize into a single theme. Now, remember, once you've got all your transcripts done, you'll find that there will be multiple themes. There will be multiple themes that you will end up with. Normally, five. Generally, it's about five themes. I mean, you can have a few more, but if you end up with 10 or 15 themes, it means that you've not done this kind of transition between your open codes, your axial codes, and your selective codes. Okay. So this is a wonderful, wonderful example. Again, I did bugger all here, guys. This is ChatGPT, 100% ChatGPT. Any comments about that? I mean, the visuals and how well this is laid out is beyond my understanding, guys. It is just exceptional. So the one rule about this is you have to transcribe your interviews. Do not, please do not, and there are AIs that will do the transcripts for you as well. Please, 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 you have to have them transcribed, and that you will work from your transcripts. Please do not try and code from listening to interviews. It's not going to work. So my students, although I'll never check it, I would expect you to transcribe it. For me, it's a non-negotiable. Any comments, questions on that? Okay. If you want to see a wonderful example of this, please have a glance at Ariel's. If you want a wonderful example of how quantitative stats are discussed and interpreted, take a look at Bradley's. Please, please default to those guys. You'll see you'll rely very heavily on Bradley's in particular. Please explain that, Uniska. The reality is your right brain should be doing a lot of this stuff. If you're doing quantitative research, your left brain better be doing most of the stuff until it comes to the interpretation. Please explain that a bit for me, Uniska. I've actually never thought of it because it's very difficult to argue logic here. It is your it's very difficult to argue logic here because it's your own biases, it's your own experiences, it is the way you've interacted with the topic that does this. I am so impressed, though, guys. I mean, I harp on this. I shouldn't have told you that I got AI to do this, but who cares? I'm not not shy about that. This was wonderful. So what I've done is I've taken this a bit further because this can be, it's a wonderful slide, Elizma. It's a wonderful, and I know that this has only been recently added to ChatGPT. But remember, I have the paid version, the one that's for something, 400 and something rand a month. So I've kept this one in because so what you need to imagine is down the left-hand side, oh, no, talk rubbish, down the right-hand side here, because I code in reverse. down the right-hand side here would be your interviews. So if you can imagine that your interviews are sitting down the right-hand side. Sorry, so your interviews are there. Um, I was at the doctor's today and she asked me what side I had some stuff cut out, what side it was on, and I couldn't remember my right from my left. So I might as well just help everyone and put it there. So you would imagine that your transcripts are sitting here, guys. From there, you can see, and my apologies for the subject matter, but it's bloody difficult to find something that is as good as this in terms of moving from your code to your category to your theme. Please have a glance at that. I don't know if let me try and make it slightly bigger. Have a glance at that. So again, your transcripts are sitting over here. Now, this was manually done. I do my coding manually, but I'm pretty sure if we take an interview and shove it into chat, chat will do it for you. It definitely will. And I suppose you can argue that there's less bias there, but the biases will always be there. Any comments on that, guys? So you'll see many codes into fewer categories into fewer themes. Please do not give us, and this irritates me when I mark final. Remember, I will mark 10 of your papers. I don't know who it will be. That gets allocated in an arbitrary manner. But the key thing is that these don't have a code become a category, become a theme. Multiples into fewer, multiples into fewer. And my apologies for the subject matter. Obviously, that's not great. Any questions, any comments on that one? Now, this looks scary as hell. Let me tell you, once you've gone through these processes, whether it's quantitative or qualitative, I promise you, I promise you, I promise you, you will find that it is just the most gratifying thing ever. Right at the beginning, and it's only a couple of months ago, I said to you, there will be moments where you believe you are the dumbest person in the world. Doing this will convince you you are the dumbest person in the world. But the reality is that at some point you will have an aha moment. And everyone has that aha moment when those insane amounts of bits of information in your interviews translate into that. There is that aha moment. And I know, and I promise you guys, when you do your final document, you will have this moment where you think, this is a wonderful experience. The journey, my gosh, is plenty potholes and the rioters throwing stones at you, and I can't share more than that, but Elizna will know. I can't. Sorry, Elizna, don't say a word. Well, we're not even at A, Elizma. We're not even at A. This A is when you sit with your transcript. So that is A. Sorry, Elizna. Guys, I've put more in here. So again, they've coded in that direction. For some reason, I struggle with it. So you can imagine where my cursor is here, where your interviews are, the transcripts from your interviews. You can have a look at it. And my apologies for the subject matter again, but I find that medical research gives us wonderful, wonderful examples of qualitative coding. Okay. So have a glance at that. Some of the stuff is quite strange, but again, you know, I can't comment about other people's coding. The one thing that I will not do also is comment on your coding. This is a deeply personal experience. So I would never, ever criticize your coding. The one thing I do want, and yeah, we want this and expect this from everyone, is that you will present this as an annexure. So this kind of thing will be presented as an annexure, non-negotiable, guys. I don't need to see your interview transcripts, but this has to be presented as an annexure. And then the last one is this, not the best one. So again, your interview is here, transcripts here, and you can see the transition. Many into fewer. They've gone subcategories, categories into a theme. I'm not a big fan of subcategories. I think there is sufficient there to jump to a theme, but it's up to you. But generally, I would avoid subcategories. Okay. Any questions, any comments for tonight, guys? I wonder if we, yeah, may not do that while I'm recording. Any questions, any comments? So at some point, I believe let me stop recording, guys. So